Welcome everyone. Today this is my video of a trip that I took down to the Yellingup, Dunsborough, Bornaup Beach area, basically the southwest of WA, around Cape Naturalist through down almost towards Augusta. Went down there on the hunt for some more salmon schools because there'd been there've been a lot of reports coming through of salmon further up the coast towards Perth, so I was hoping there would be some through that area, as if they're getting caught further up the coast, there's a good chance I might catch a school further down where I was, as there'd been a lot of schools and a lot of fishing done for salmon around Yeagerup, which is even further south. So, and also just a bit of an explore of that area and the coastline between that top section of Cape Naturalist then down towards the bottom. So at this point I want to make mention, as you can see on the screen here, just a little bit about our subscriber base. We have a lot of people that watch the channel and watch our videos, but a lot of them aren't our subscribers, so we would love it if you just hit that subscription bell, like, subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Same with our patrons. I want to say a big thank you to our patrons and those that help support our channel and the creation of our content. And in relation to this, we're giving away a big prize package when we hit 500 members, so we're not that far away, and I'll be one of the subscribers that gets that. So make sure you jump in, subscribe before we hit that 500 to be eligible, and we'll put a list in the description of exactly what's entailed in that giveaway, so you know exactly what you're going to get, but there's quite a lot of stuff. Anyway, into the video before I keep talking or we go too far. That's the distance between Perth and Yellingup area. This is where I'd set up to camp that evening prior to, because by the time I drove down it's kind of dark. And that was my little camping spot that I found, which was just a gem, to be honest, to be out in this location. It's beautiful. I had a big, as you can see there's two sort of, almost as if they're designed, sorry about that, bump the screen, they're almost designed for camping. They're not nice circle patches there, so you can set up and have a nice camping section. So they were beautiful spots that I found. Then my idea in the next day, because that was Friday night, so Saturday I wanted to head up towards Cape Naturalist and look at Bunker Bay, because that's generally where a lot of the fish are, that I've caught and others have caught. This is a more detailed map of that area, and I also wanted to circle out the Three Bears track, because the part of the section I was camped on was near that section. But so this is that section that I was camping. It was a 4-wheel-drive track, so I thought I'd get out and explore it, because it said it was part of the Three Bears, and I'd always been curious to see what it was like, how far you can go on it, the conditions, etc. So this is it. This is me getting out, because when I went to go down here, I can see the right hand side as you saw my jump. I cut all the edit out, but you can see it was the angle and the ruts, and that was too bad, so I went to the left hand side. Because this is an unfamiliar track, I didn't want to end up in a position where I couldn't get out of something. There was a T section here, so you go right or left. I went left originally because it didn't look like it went very far, and it basically ended up another similar camp spot, so I came out. So that's me coming out from that second little area. And then you follow this then I was following this main road, and it was starting to point me in the wrong direction as far as my GPS was starting to say I'm heading away from where my desired path was. Again, here I stopped because there is although it's not probably as easy to see on this video, there's you can see how quickly I'm going down. It's a steep descent and then a very sharp ascent, and then a nice left-hand turn. So I wanted to have a little look around the track a little bit further before I kept going, and got myself in a position where it's hard to get out of. And it was a good idea, because when I got to this point, I couldn't go up further and continue along the track, and you could see that people have been using this spot to turn around, because there was all these limestone rocks like this as you came around to the right, and a lot of those were quite sharp and deep. So if you slipped off your rut, you'll hit a giant limestone rock like that. As you can see, there's some pictures looking up further along the track, so that didn't get any, doesn't look like it improved, so I thought there's no point continuing this. Let's just actually get on my way, get out of here and go check out Boranup Bay area and see if there's salmon around, and make my plans from there. So this is essentially a sped up version of me coming out of that where I eventually had stopped and turned around at. So this is just the track out, which is really short, and then we're going to be looking at the next section of it. So yeah, there's really not a lot to that little bit that I was on. It was fun in parts, and I may have continued along that really limestoney rugged section. The only issue I had with that is I would prefer to have another vehicle so that they could get out of the car and help guide me through to make sure I don't go over any of those rocks, so that if I slip, it's not going to hit anything underneath my car, and I'm clearing the right rocks and I'm going in the right direction. So I like to have a spotter. Now this is, once again, so this is the distance to Boranup Bay, how long it takes you to get from where I was, which is down Yellingup. I circled 3 pairs because that's the interesting part of that track I want to explore. This is Boranup Bay, and I've circled that section that's called Castle Rock. A lot of people do a lot of fishing off that. And then out the 2 main bays where a lot of people come down to fish in Dunsborough is Boranup Bay and Eagle Bay. So Boranup Bay is obviously that top one, and then this is the bottom section, which is Eagle Bay. Both you can't drive onto, so you've got to stop and park in the car parking area and then walk down. So this is just basically from the car park, you walk from that down to Boranup Bay along this nice wooden track, and then stairs, and then you're on the beach, and this is exactly what you see when you're there. This was Sunday, this picture was taken, and it was a beautiful day that day. That arrow's there, that's just pointing to where that Castle Rock is, so it's a long distance off, but it's a good spot for looking for salmon schools and fishing off it. I've been here a few times before, I've actually caught salmon here, so this was, on this occasion now unfortunately, no one was catching anything, although it was beautiful conditions, as you can see, as far as blue skies, calm sort of water, so you can still see the schools as they come through. If it's really choppy, it makes it harder to spot, particularly if the school is small. But if it's nice like this, you can spot them a bit quicker and a bit easier, so it makes it helpful. I really enjoy going to Boranup Bay. It is more of a fishing beach. There's a cafe actually right to that section. You can actually look out and look at whole of Boranup Bay from there. Anyway, so this is just some Google Map vision of the distance from Yellingup down the coastline to almost, I think, just shy of Hamelin Bay, and this is to give you an idea of how long it takes you to drive there. So it's about just over an hour to get from Yellingup where I was down to where I wanted to get to. Originally, now I'm trying to get into Bornaup Beach. There were along Cape Road, they'd put up a lot of blocks, so you couldn't actually access a lot of the 4-drive tracks that were through there. And there were some that were put in place that had tape across because there had been a fire through there. And eventually I found one that didn't. And then I travelled along the tracks up a little bit further that were in the picture and where the arrows were indicating, and eventually I went down a few of those tracks, like the one that was on the screen first. The orange arrow was pointing to one. I checked out to see if it went to the beach, but it doesn't. It just stopped short to a car park, so I go down further and I try another track. The track in nice and easy and firm. Now I recorded this on the spur of the moment. I actually hadn't intended to record some of this content. I just managed to catch this mostly just to point out that just the really unsafe behaviour of some 4-wheel drivers there. The issue with, I see similar types of behaviour by 4-wheel drivers and that just can lead to disaster. I'm not here to name and shame anybody. I'm more here just to a healthy heads up. Let's try not to hurt anybody when we're forward driving, and that includes putting them in a really bad situation. Like, you can see how much my car, as it's going over this limestone section, is bouncing about, and I'm going nice and steady, so you can imagine the amount of grip that you're going to have to hold on to for that. Not to mention, as you're going through all this, if you don't know the area, it can be quite easy to be knocked flying. So please don't do that sort of behaviour. We don't want anyone getting hurt. Now, anyway, after all this, all the tracks I'd taken then led to a dead end. You couldn't get onto Bornaup Beach with your car, so I came down towards this what's called, now I could be pronouncing this wrong, but the arrows are all indicating the road, and that's the distance from Up to the road that takes you into Neretlis. I'm so bad with words, so but it gets you to that location. Now, that's the spelling there, so tell me how you pronounce it. I couldn't quite get it, but anyway, the track into that's really fantastic, and that gets you onto the beach, and that beach extends all the way up through and covers a lot of Bornaup Beach itself. The arrow there is just to indicate that's where the access to the beach is. I'm just up at the top parked to have a look first. So then you can enter onto the beach and go north and south. So if you go south, you'll end up basically in Hamelin Bay at the very end. And if you go north, if you go north, you'll end up right up towards the end of Bornaup when the rocky outcrops stops you going any further. And that was straight out view from where I was. That little arrow is to indicate you just walk across. So this is a view looking out onto the ocean. It's a beautiful stretch, great conditions, really overcast. Would have been nice for fishing. I did speak to a lot of people there that were trying to catch salmon, and unfortunately hadn't been the case so far. Hadn't been the case the previous day either. So anyway, this is the track. You see, that's where you can see just to the front of the screen now. That's how you get onto the beach, just there. So this is the track that you take to get in. I think from the best of my recollections, I swear it's called Reserve Road from memory, but I mean, if you type in the beach name, you're going to find it. Now, I've cut a lot of sections of this out and I've sped up a lot of it so you don't have to see the entire track because it's long, but it is very narrow in sections, and there is limited visibility from time to time. It is a very enjoyable track, a lot of fun through it, especially at certain points. It does get interesting. As I mentioned, that tight squeeze can be problematic, especially if you've got a wider car, then it is an issue. And then you get random bits like this which makes it a little bit more treachery or a bit more fun. You have to think your way through it. You can see, probably hard to see, but you can see giant wombatty hole and drop off to that left hand side there, and picking the right lane and making sure you get out of a lot of those situations is really good to be able to try some of this in this track, where it's a firmer track, so you're not dealing with a lot of sand, so it's compacted, you get more traction. This here you can see trying to avoid a lot of those limestones and get around that side of it. And then the only thing I'd mention, because of how close in a lot of these tracks are, try and do a reasonable speed set limit through here to adjust for the distance. So here I'm missing another wombat hole. The reason I say that is someone was coming through here pretty quick, and I didn't have the opportunity to move off to the side to some of these little side areas designed for that. And in the process, I clipped a bit of my door and it ends up with a dent while I was trying to help get out of the way for somebody else. So a little bit of etiquette on driving through areas where there's limited long distance viewing is obstructed. So some of this is great. If it was, especially with the rainfall, this would bog up quite well. I'm skimming most of it just because I just don't want to get my car too dirty. It just means I've got to wash it more. but you can get sections of it that are enjoyable and can test you a little bit in some parts, especially for some reason at the very beginning. I was going through a lot of it and I found the start was harder than the rest of this section, and I thought if it keeps getting worse I'm probably not going to continue, but I got told that it gets better, and it does. Power, yeah, no. Doesn't always save you, in my opinion. Going the right way is always the best way. Sometimes that mud's unavoidable, like you can see here, there's a big puddle to the right, and so when you get rain that'll fill up. Here I'm just dodging most of the mud through that section. So you can see some of it does get difficult like this. This is all chopped up because a lot of people are coming up this ascent and these are digging wombat holes as a result of whatever action they're doing that's not helping it. And so you've got to be a little bit more careful. I just crawled up those types of hills when I was coming in. You can see here in this vision, this downhill slope, it's quite steep, so you can see why a lot of wombat holes are created. So if whoever may not have deflated their tyres, they may be powering and then digging holes as a result of it. You can see just there to the left hand side it is more difficult because there's a lot more wombat holes. So I believe some people have been using it just for that aspect, to have a little bit of fun. I just skipped it because there's no point doing that. I'm already on a track that has a few already, and I don't want to continue that way. So we're getting close to the exit of the actual road. As I mentioned, I trimmed it, and I've also sped up a lot of the vision, so it is actually a lot further that you have to go. But this gives you an idea of what you'll encounter if you turn onto this road. This should give you an idea of what you get, of the worst of everything. So I basically try and include the areas that I would consider the most difficult, and then leave out the stuff that looks pretty much the same, regardless of where you are. Here again, lots of wombatty holes as you try and go down a descent on the way out. So that's an issue you're going to have to look at when you're coming in. So it's a good idea to deflate your tyres prior to coming up this track, and you'll find that it'll be easier and more enjoyable. Sorry, I just got put off by the last one. So yeah, I'm coming right towards the end of this one, but to be honest, loved it. That's the only way you're going to get onto that section. Great spot if you want to go down and fish at that location. It's great to know that this is the best access to getting to that giant stretch of beach, and unfortunately you can't get through all the other ones. So I went through all of that to find this track. So avoid all the other stuff because it's not going to get you down onto the actual beach. Come here and get into it from there. So now if you don't want to continue any further, because I do a little bit of a talk about some stuff on the camera for when I get set up, so if you don't want to listen to that, you can stop. But if you've liked the video so far, hit like and subscribe, and thanks to our Patreons, and then I'll let the camera continue to roll without.
Right, back at the old spot. Came back here just before it starts to get darker. So it'd be nice to get set up before dark this time. Last time I got here was on dark. Checked out a bunch of photos this morning, all the way through to about just shy of lunch. There had been no schools and no salmon coming through for anyone that was down there through that section of the beach. It was a bit sad to see. Then went for a drive. We went all the way down the coastline along, travelling towards Bornaup Beach. Went in through all the full driving tracks. Most of that's pretty easy. You can get access to the beach through the majority of that section. A lot of that's all been blocked off. Bards who can't actually get onto the beach. The earlier section you can actually get on. It's a really nice track actually though. It was quite fun. The only disappointment of that track was that I've got a nice dent in my passenger door, not very nice dent in the side of my passenger door. That was due to somebody coming along my track, because I filmed coming back out because it was such a fun track to be on. This was can get very, it's just single car only, and if people aren't following certain speed limits or being inconsiderate when they're driving, you might have to jump out of the way really quick, especially with some of the hills and descents. And they were going too quick, so I tried to move out of the way so that we didn't hit, and ended up having just go in and do my setup. But yeah, no one was catching any fish between all the way from Hamelin to Boranup, almost Hamelin. There was pretty much no action there at all. No one had caught anything. The previous day there had been a school or two come through, but no success. Or school had come through, but there was no one was catching any. They were out just past casting distance. So the only joy was being had was by the boats that were around a bit further, or the drag netting that was happening around the Hamelin Bay area a bit further out, so they weren't getting up along the coast towards Bornaup area, because they were mostly getting picked off beforehand. So most of the people along that whole stretch that I spoke to had no joy, and the drag netting was grabbing a lot of the schools before they could get through the area, obviously preventing, maybe, who knows, but yeah, they weren't coming up. Anyway, I'm going to go through and set up my gear, so I thought I'd record chopping out the rooftop tent, because this is one thing I really do like, is the fact that I can get this stuff set up really quick and do it in the daylight before it gets stood up.
Yeah, this is just nothing exciting. This is just me. This is nothing exciting. This is just me popping out the tent, mostly just to demonstrate how quick you can actually throw it up and get set up. I hate and detest with all my heart the fact that it takes a long time to pack away or set things up. When you arrive at your camping location, you want to spend a long time doing those types of activities. So I prefer anything that speeds that process up. So, which is the reason I went into the rooftop. Part of the reason I went into the rooftop tent was for the speed aspect of things, as well as a few other aspects that I quite like. So I thought I'd leave it in. Essentially, once I pop this ladder out, for me, that's it. I don't open anything else out, particularly down here when it's cold. When it's warm I do, but for the airflow. But now that's got my bedding in it, sheets in it, I just throw my pillow in it when I'm ready to go to bed. So that's how quick and easy it is for me to set up, and I'll be ready to jump in. So
that's pretty much it. I leave mine like that. Normally most of the time I don't bother putting the windows up, especially when it gets quite cold. There's no point. So my bedding's already in. Just throw the pillow in, and that's it. Responsible campfire stuff is basic. So having water on hand, you clear the area, and so all this area, like all this bit in front of us, you can see all this stuff is stuff that can burn. So I like to clear out the area with my shovel, dig a portion in a hole for my fire, dig a hole for my fire, put all the sand to the side so that I can cover it, or cover any embers that go off, as well as I put big water canisters next to it, so that if something does fly out, I can put it out really fast. That's just safety precautions. So if you take your safety precautions, you limit the amount of damage that may happen, or you limit the effect that it may have. And then obviously it's fire safety once you finish, to make sure the fire's out properly. So cover it in water, make sure it's completely out. and then bury it, because you don't want to bury it and leave the fire burning underneath, because that can happen if you cover a fire with just dirt and you don't actually extinguish it with water first. So always good to have good fire protocols in place. So I'm going to collect some firewood and set up the fire, because that's the next step, and then I can relax. Then I can relax next to the fire in my chair and enjoy the serenity and nice forest that I have here, and the quiet, nice peace and quiet. Hopefully we'll get cloud cover go away and I'll get some stars tonight. So if we can get some stars, nice fire going, that's all we really could ask for. Beautiful place. Had fun exploring this whole section of coastline and over across at Dunsborough, and the rest of it's all been good times. So anyway, I'm going to set up my stuff and then relax for a brew, I think is on the agenda.
I just wanted to say, here we got a couple of pictures at the actual campsite. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's great to be able to explore that section of WA and find out where you can and can't go and where the best places to go are, as well as enjoying this special location I found. I love camping out there and enjoying our great outdoors. So if you like this, hit that like and subscribe. Got anything you want to say, just put it in the comments. I'm happy to hear whatever and let me know what you think.